let's get acquainted with the not-for-profit statement of activities. Well, similar to our income statement, right? Our statement of activities, it's the activity during the period of the year, period of time, and it's going to display our revenues and expenses and gains and losses, just like the income statement. Displayed gross, displayed net, not too important there, but reclassification between classes of net assets. Now, here's also a little different. So when we have not-for-profit, it's all about classification, right? Classification, restricted, unrestricted, and this is gonna display for us the changes, right? So if we have a bunch of net assets that became unrestricted because we used them for their intended purpose, then we are gonna display that on the activity, the statement of activities, the report of how we're doing this year. Here is an example. Right here, well, we have revenues and gains. These are contributions and everything with and without donor restrictions. And we have net assets released from restrictions. So the change in the balance sheet as well as our normal income statement amounts. Get a little familiar with it. You're not going to have to fully memorize this, but it's really great to just kind of see it, visualize it, and know what you're talking about whenever you see a question on it. Similarly here are our expenses and losses. Just a couple different other points to see. Nothing crazy, right? Just get a little familiar. Lastly, the last port here, we've got our non-operating changes. We've got some changes in those net assets, right? To and from operations, transfers. Just here for your reference. Feel free to pause, take a look at it if needed. Now, the components of the statement of activities, these are going to be the change in total net assets, the change in net assets without and with donor restrictions. These are, as we saw, what we are going to go through on our statement of activities. For multiple choice question purposes, just lots of different questions about classification, changes in status for all of them. All good stuff that you'll enjoy. Nothing too mind-numbing, just little points here and there to be familiar with and memorize. All right, net assets with and without donor restrictions. Again, so covering these, if the private university receives $1 million and the donor says, use this to build a baseball field, that's with donor restrictions. Then once the $1 million is used to build a baseball field, you now have $1 million baseball field without donor restrictions because you've fulfilled the donor's restriction, right? That would be a nice transfer through the statement of activities. With donor restrictions, the part of net assets of a not-for-profit that is subject to donor-imposed restrictions, as we just mentioned, and without are the part that are not subject to donor-imposed restrictions. So maybe you initially got it without restrictions, or you fulfilled your end of the bargain as the not-for-profit, did what the donor wanted, and now this does not have any restrictions on it.